Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Rosalyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com. Hi, it's Rosalyn Hardrick, your host for Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I just wanted to give a little happy update to this podcast episode. In this episode, we pass the mic to Rosalyn Baker Barnes. And after we recorded the podcast, we got some great news. She has been elected president-elect designate of the Florida Bar. So in this episode, she talks about that she had thrown her hat, so to speak, to join the campaign. And as of the date of this current recording, campaign is over. She won. So we are honored and proud to announce that Saya Baker Barnes, today's podcast guest, has been elected to serve as the next president-elect of the Florida Bar. She will be installed as president-elect on Friday, June 21st, 2024, during the Florida Bar's annual convention. Saya will serve as president during the 2025 to 2026 term. When she is installed in June 2025, she will become the first Black woman to serve as president of the Florida Bar and only second Black lawyer to serve since the bar was founded in 1950. She previously served as the first Black woman president of the Palm Beach County Bar Association. So we congratulate you, Saya, on this tremendous accomplishment, and we look forward to celebrating with you on your journey to presidency. Without further ado, we pass the mic to Saya Baker Barnes. Hi, it's Rosalyn Hardrick, founder and executive director of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the nonprofit behind this podcast and the Scholarship and Leadership Program and the blog. We have another great guest for you today. We are passing the mic to Rosalyn Baker Barnes. She's a shareholder at Searcy, Denney, Scarola, Barnhart, and Shipley, PA. And she's the chairperson for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. She has been a lawyer for over 20 years. She successfully pursued justice for victims in personal injury, medical negligence, product liability cases, and she frequently lectures throughout the U.S. on catastrophic injury cases. She's achieved numerous multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements, and a landmark case with $20 million in compensatory and punitive damages against the giant RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company. It was affirmed by the Florida Supreme Court, and the case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. So Ms. Baker Barnes is a Florida Bar board-certified civil trial attorney. She's been recognized by some popular magazines you've probably heard of: U.S. News and World Report, Best Lawyers in America, Florida Trend Magazine, and she was in South Florida's inaugural Top 20 Women in Law. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you. So I just mentioned that I saw you speak at the George Edgecombe Bar Association, their membership luncheon. And I'm like, man, I got to have her on the podcast because I'd love to hear more about her journey and to have you share it with others. So now that we've heard all these highlights and great things you've done, let's go back in time a little bit and talk about what made you want to be a lawyer in the first place.
So I grew up not wanting to be a lawyer. My dad was a lawyer. My mother ran the Department of Corrections here in Palm Beach County, which is where I grew up. So I was surrounded by sort of law and law enforcement. And so I was anti-law school. I went to college thinking I was going to be a sports reporter because I love sports and I love talking. And I felt like that's where I could use my talents, maybe like a Maria Taylor-ish on the sidelines. And went to college at Florida State, majored in communication, did everything that you could do under the sun related to communication. I interned at a TV station, a newspaper. I worked in the governor's office and his press office. And each time I was left with sort of this feeling of like, I'm not, something's missing. I'm not sure if this is quite what I would see myself or envision myself doing, for a career. And so I sort of fell into law school. So I was graduating and did not want to go into a career in news reporting. Not that there's anything wrong with news reporters. Some of my dear friends are news reporters. It just wasn't for me. And so I just sort of on a whim decided to apply to law school. I had thought about it. I had taken the LSAT, just sort of moving through what am I going to do next. And I got in and I said, I'm going to try it out and see how this goes. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the challenge. I mean, it's painful, obviously. Law school's painful, but I tried out for moot court. And once I got in the courtroom, it clicked for me. That's where I felt like I could best use my advocacy skills, was in the courtroom. And I remember, so in at Florida State, that's where I went to law school as well. So I'm a double null. And I took all my journalism classes at FAMU. So I'm a Rattler too. I literally have all of it in my background. But I made Final Four in moot court. So it was the top four top four people from the tryouts of moot court. And we, as first year law students, we argued before the Florida Supreme Court. And there were two Black women, myself and my dear friend Sarita Beeman. She's now the superintendent of schools for Seminole County, phenomenal lawyer, first Black woman in that role. But it was the two of us, young first year law students at the Florida Supreme Court, arguing this case in front of all the justices. And we thought we won. I mean, we were like, we think we won this, and we didn't win. And I remember a couple of the justices coming up to us afterwards and saying, you were phenomenal, but you are not appellate lawyers. You all are trial lawyers. And it clicked. Like, this is, I probably should have tried out for mock trial. I didn't. I stayed in moot court, but those were transferable skills that, even to this day, I can look back on and say that those things really set the foundation for me being a trial lawyer, being a courtroom lawyer, being comfortable on my feet in a courtroom in front of judges and juries. And then when I interned during law school and actually got to interact with clients as a law clerk, that's when I really felt like, okay, this is what I want to do, because it allowed me to translate those advocacy skills to an objective being trying to put my clients in a better position than they're in when they walk in my office.
Absolutely, yes. So I also went to Florida State. I'm class of 2009. And
Yes,
I'm
go
guessing, so you said it was just you and one other Black woman. I'm guessing Justice Quince was not on the bench when you were
She was
arguing
not.
before her.
She was not. She was not on the court at the time. Justice Periente, who's one of my mentors, was the only woman on the court at the time. I believe. Now I'm drawing a blank on his name. I can't draw a blank on
Justice Perry?
Justice Perry. I believe Justice Perry may have. This was in '97. So, first year law students, the court has looked differently over the years than it looked then. But our class at Florida State, we had the largest class of diverse, African American Black students in the history of the law school. We were the class of 2000. And I'm really proud of our class because so many of our class members have gone on to really excel in so many different areas. Like I said, Sarita's first Black woman superintendent in Seminole County. There's in-house counsel. There's just really just a phenomenal group of folks that came out of that class that, we came in and we hit the ground running and we wanted to do it all. We had Assistant Dean Ruth Witherspoon, who was a Black woman, Assistant Dean at the time, who really encouraged us and just, and really engaged us, I think, in the law school experience. Like, instead of us coming in blind, she, sat with us that these are the things that I want you to be involved in. Figure out what it is that you're interested in doing, because I want to see you all doing these things. And I think that made a huge difference for us.
Yeah, and I was there when Conti Moore Well, she has a
Hmm?
different last name now, but she was part of the founding board for the Black Alumni Network.
Yes. Yes.
And so people like her who were upperclassmen at
Yep.
the time, we had Dean Benavides, we've had
Yep.
some folks in the admissions who really told
Mhm.
us the same thing. They took us under their wing and said, do not lean back.
Yes.
Lean in,
Exactly. Lean
get
in.
involved in
Lean
all
in.
these different things. Yeah, because that is really where you get to know if you like something or not. A lot of students tell me that as a professor. I ask them, what are you interested in? I have no idea. I'm like, well, you have to try some things, if
Yes.
only to find out what you hate. So you know you're not going to pursue that. And I know a lot of students, I teach criminal law, and they're like, I'll never do criminal law. I don't want to do this. And they do an
Yeah.
internship and they fall in love with the courtroom, just like
Yeah.
you.
I often say success happens outside of your comfort zone. You
Yes.
have to, you have to test your limits. And that's the only way that you're going to know what you can and maybe what you can't do, what you like and what you don't like. And so for me, that was trying out for moot court was definitely outside of my comfort zone. It was, but I really was inspired by, Dean Witherspoon and my fellow classmates. And we were all just like, we're going to blow this place up, basically. We know. And we came in with that mentality. And, and I'm so glad I did it because I think for me, the skills that I learned in moot court and the resilience, especially that I learned. So it's not always how do you speak in a courtroom or how do you give an opening or how do you, argue a summary judgment motion. Sometimes it's like, what if the judge is peppering me with questions? Am I going to be able to work my way through this and stand tall, or am I going to fall down? And I think those were things that for me, moot court really helped me with my just resilience of, I'll go in a courtroom and a judge will be yelling and screaming even to this day. And I'll just, yes, Your Honor. And I'll get right back to my argument. And it doesn't bother me. And so I think that, it's those types of intangibles that you learn. And it's a great opportunity for exposure. So I found that through that, both Sarita and I got job offers after we argued at the Florida Supreme Court. There were a ton of lawyers, local Tallahassee lawyers, in that courtroom watching the arguments. The judges, watch the arguments. And, people were like, hey, these are young lawyers that I would like to have on my team. So it's not just, as I said, the arguing and being in the courtroom, it's the intangibles of relationships, which is a huge, huge part of the practice of law and something that I think many times gets overlooked in law school, but it's critically important. I did a few things. I clerked where I'm practicing right now. So this is the only place I've ever practiced, Searcy, Denney, Scarola, Barnhart, and Shipley. I've been here now 23 years, and I clerked here my first year of law school and my second year of law school. And then they offered me a job out of law school, and I accepted, and I've been here ever since. And so that, I think, clerking I didn't know if I wanted to do personal injury law. Just like you said, you come in and who knows? I mean, there's so many different areas of law and opportunities for lawyers in non-traditional settings, especially in South Florida, that it's I think, very difficult to know unless you've had exposure what you really want to do. And so I encourage people to, try to get as much exposure as you can in law school to different areas. Clerking at Searcy Denney, I worked on general personal injury cases. I worked on medical malpractice cases. I worked on product liability cases. The firm was starting to get into some mass torts work. So I had exposure to all of those different areas of personal injury law on the plaintiff side, and I was interested in it. I was interested in it mainly because every case was so different. Every med mal case was a different area of medicine, and your products cases was a different product defect or manufacturing defect. And I liked the variety in the cases. I liked the interaction with the client. And then but while I was in law school at Florida State and in Tallahassee, I was a certified legal intern, and I interned at the Attorney General's office in Tallahassee and got to argue summary judgment motions and go to court and meet with clients and all of those. I mean, it was like me really being a lawyer. And that I developed a lot of relationships through the AG's office and built on relationships that I had developed in college. So in college, I interned with Governor Lawton Chiles in his press office, and I was in the Capitol every day, up and down the hallways and all of that. And some of those people that I worked with interacted with the AG's office, and I knew them and I had relationships with them. And just to sort of close the loop on that, I'm now on the Board of Governors for the Florida Bar. And we spend a lot of time in Tallahassee. We're an arm of the Florida Supreme Court, so we deal a lot with the court and the justices. And one of the bar's top lobbyists was someone who worked in Governor Lawton Chiles's office as a baby lobbyist when I was an intern. And so when I came back and I'm on the board and we come in and he comes to give this report in our board meeting, I'm like, Jim, and he's like, say it. And, and this is, 30 years ago, but this is what I mean about we instantly reconnected. We talked about people that we worked with. Where's this person and where's that person? And now we work very closely together because I'm the legislative chair of the board. And so we deal with all of the interactions with the legislature, funding for the court, the budget, and all of those things. And having that relationship, I think, really makes a big difference. And so I would encourage the law students and the aspiring law students to just really think about how you continue to build and develop your relationships, and because it does make a big difference.
It does. And we don't know in advance which
No.
relationships are going to blossom. So
Never.
Really important, even as a college student, stay in touch with those professors, stay in touch
Yes.
with those supervisors in your internships. And then, some people have trouble with that because they feel like you're going to be using them, they're using you. And I'm like, no, everyone agrees that networking is okay and we can help each other out and stay in touch. And your classmates, be nice to them, even if they're being hyper competitive, because law school can be really competitive, right? I mean, you and Newport, that top 4, that was a big deal at Florida State.
And I remember one law student saying to my partner and I, Sarita and I, like, do they reserve slots for you guys? It was like a comment, almost like, you didn't earn this. How did you get on moot court? That type of thing. And then we were Final Four. And then there was a lot of publicity about us being Final Four, and people were talking about us and how we performed and executed. And listen, it's very easy, I think, to get upset about those comments. Sometimes you do need to clap back but truthfully, I sort of respond to those things with my work and with what I deliver. And it usually resolves those issues. And so I think for us as law students, we didn't know how to deal with all that at the time. Those things continue as you progress through law school. And as you progress through your career as a lawyer, you're going to be challenged. You're going to be underestimated. You're going to be questioned. And I just, I try to flip it and use it to my advantage. You want to underestimate me? Okay, I'll see you at trial. And do it, and just make sure that you hone your craft, you learn your craft, you work hard, and you take advantage of the opportunities that come your way. And if an opportunity is not coming your way, go find it. I do think that those things in law school and just sort of dealing with those things helps to equip us some, but the relationship part is something that I did not, it was happening, but I didn't know it was happening. And if I had to go back to my younger self, I would have been much more conscious and proactive, but I just didn't know.
Yes. So our listeners, now you know, right? Make sure you're making those connections with your professors and your classmates, even the ones who get on your nerves. Mm-hmm. And, women of our generation have the same similar response. We're like, well, I'm just going to prove it with my work, or I'm not going to take it personally. I'm just going to be resilient. But I found people in their 20s right now have a really hard time dealing with that. Any advice for those young women?
I think that, you have to pick and choose your battles. Mm-hmm. There is a time when you need to clap back and fight back, and you sort of have to learn and know when to say when. And I'm still learning myself, but, I can, the best thing that I can tell you is that we live in a much more divisive world, to me, than 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where when I started as a lawyer, yes, it's contentious, and yes, people come at you in different ways. I sort of had to work through that. But I found that once we actually got into the case and they saw, okay, she's pretty good, and vice versa, my defense lawyer is good, we got along. I mean, in my cases, I typically, because I do a lot of medical malpractice now, more than probably 70% of my cases are medical negligence cases. And so I end up dealing with the same defense lawyers over and over and over again. And we're friends. We could fly to New York for a depo, have a very, hot depo where, I'm on the witness and they're on the witness. And then we could take a cab back to the airport and have a drink together. And that's what I think, if I were giving advice to our newer lawyers and perhaps our younger generation, I think that's a piece that's missing. And it has benefits. Okay. This might be a lawyer that you're like, this guy is such a jerk at the beginning of the case. But actually, once you get to know people, I've found, I mean, most of the lawyers in my cases, first of all, I've never had an opposing counsel in trial that's a Black woman in 23 years.
Wow.
Never. I have never had an opposing counsel, Black woman, in any case that I've tried. And I've probably tried at this point about 25 cases to verdict. I've never had. Now, this is civil. It's different in criminal, right? In criminal, that might be an everyday thing. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in my world, high stakes, very large catastrophic injury, death, product liability cases, I very rarely, if ever, see anybody that looks like me, ever. And so usually my defense lawyers are older white men or older white women. And just imagine that existence for 23 years on every single case, right? If I said, you know what, I'm never going to get along, this is never going to work, it wouldn't be a good existence for me. So I had to figure out and find common ground. And we find common ground in so many ways. Maybe where you're from, maybe where you grew up, maybe I was a runner, maybe you're a runner too, kids, I have 3 children, things that you might be interested in, travel. There's just, there's always going to be something that you have in common. And I found that once I was able to just actually talk to my opposing counsel about not the case, just, hey, how's it going, before a depo or after a depo, we would find common ground, and we were able to work better together. We developed respect for one another. It helped me get cases settled because we could talk to each other, and I could say, hey, listen, why haven't we resolved this case yet? Let's go to mediation. Let's chat about, listen, you and I aren't going to agree on liability and damages. We never are. You're here and I'm here, but you got to acknowledge, X, Y, or Z, and I have to acknowledge X, Y, or Z. Let's see if we could figure out if we can come together and resolve this case. And then I think the ultimate compliment is that many of those lawyers, defense lawyers on my cases, send business to me now. Say, hey, listen, I don't do plaintiff's work, say it, but this person was has this incident. I told him to give you a call. I'd like you to talk to this person. It's more relationships. And I think that if I were giving any advice about that, it's just like, don't always look at your opposing counsel as the enemy. Now, when we're in the courtroom, they're the enemy. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be respectful. Good morning, I'm going to speak to you. But once that bell rings and we're in front of the jury, you're the enemy. But it's a friendly enemy, it's yes, like, hey, yes, I'm here to do my job and to win. But that doesn't mean that I can't be cordial, respectful, nice to you. And I think that oftentimes when people are chippy with us, say things to us, and again, sometimes you do have to clap back and put them in their place, but you can still say, do that and get right back to what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, from my perspective, I viewed it as, this is not about me becoming best friends with this person, right? This is about me achieving a result for my client. So if that means I got to take a cab with this person and see if we get along, so be it.
Yeah. And, you mentioned so many things, experiences that I have had, getting yelled at by judges, getting
Yes.
questioned by not just opposing counsel, bailiffs,
Yep.
people
Everybody.
just even trying to get into the courthouse.
Yes.
And so I want to transition now to, oh, and I'm also wanting to give some context because they heard 25 trials, but like you said, this is civil. Just
Yes.
for some context, 95% of criminal cases in state and federal court get resolved without a jury trial,
Mm,
without any trial. So to have 25 big civil trials is a
that's a
lot
lot.
for one career. Okay, so
It's
let's
a
just
lot.
put that in context.
It's a lot
And
of civil trial. And most
one,
of my trials are multi-week.
yes,
I have a statewide practice, so I mean, I tried a case last year in Brevard County, and it was a 7 week trial out of town. So I'm living in Brevard County, coming home on the weekends. I was the only Black person in the courtroom in that case. We had no the jury, the veneer, it was just me.
wow, not even the bailiffs or the See, yeah. So, and that is not an unusual case. So, during the Esquire, we did an oral history of some of the pioneering African American attorneys in Florida, and they shared those stories. And so now we're fast forwarding to 20, they started practicing maybe in 1970, 1980,
Yeah.
1990. Now we're in 2023, and we're still having individuals having that experience. So, let's talk about the Bar Association you started.
Yeah. So my work environment could be isolating at times because you're the only one in the office, and then you're the only Black woman at the deposition, and then you're the only Black woman in court. And it's not to say that you like think about it every day, because honestly I don't. I come in, I'm here to do my job, but I do feel like over time there was a chipping away, is what I would call it, of me sort of burying that and saying, say you just have to do your job, do what you need to do, come in here, and not really acknowledging that isolation, and not really acknowledging the not having an outlet and not having someone that I could go to. And I have wonderful mentors in a variety of different arenas, but I didn't have any that had been, a majority plaintiffs, catastrophic law firm where you're the lead counsel at trial, and you gotta think about things that other people don't have to think about, and battle things that other people don't have to battle, and still do a good job for your client and still win. And so for me, I really felt like, along with my two co-founders, we felt like we wanted to help young Black women lawyers who were trying to navigate all of these things have a place that they could call home, have a space where there was somebody there that had walked the path that they will walk, or are walking. And so we started the Palm Beach County Cherie Davis Cunningham Black Women Lawyers Association in 2021. It's named after the first Black woman judge here in Palm Beach County. And she's here and she's active in our association. She's retired now. And we selected a charter board of Black women lawyers from all varieties and backgrounds: in-house counsel, criminal defense, prosecutors, PI, corporate, college president, you name it. And what we wanted, city government, we wanted to have a place where women could come to Palm Beach County, be a part of this organization, and instantly meet someone who knows exactly what your day was like today and can relate and help you with advice and tools on how to get through it so that you don't have to walk that path alone. It's something that we had talked about for probably 10 years, honestly. And then with George Floyd and just all of the, we just decided, okay, it's time now. And it just so happened that around that time, the ABA had done a study on minority women in the profession. And it was a follow-up study to one that they had done 30 years ago. And they wanted to see, like, where are these women now? And they were able to find Black, women of color that had been practicing in 30 years across the nation in like minutes, because there were so few of us. And they found that the reason that there were so few of us were the same things that many of us had talked about: feelings of isolation, feeling like we're not getting opportunities for advancement, that it's not being communicated to us, that we, are not advancing and enjoying the practice of law and not having the opportunities in the practice of law to get the very best out of the profession. And so it was like a call to action. They were like, please don't let this study sit on the shelf and let us come back 20 years from now and be saying the same thing. And so we said, okay, we won't. And we started our organization. We now have, I think, close to 120 lawyer members of our organization. We're open to everyone. And we have a variety of we have judges and all kinds of folks. And it has led to so much. We have a federal judge who says, hey, listen, I'm hiring a new clerk. If you know of anyone in your organization. And it's just, and it's just an opportunity, I think, for not only for us to have a place to call home, but an opportunity for exposure, for the legal profession to have exposure to us and to see us, I think, in maybe a different light. Like when we all come together, and our colors are black and purple, so we always have a really powerful presence when we come in. And, it's really something that all of us are very proud of. And we're seeing the results and the fruits of our labor already, which is really nice, in our young lawyers.
Yes, you all are very well represented on social media because that's where I see you guys. I saw the purple, and of course, the color purple is coming out.
Yes, yes.
The
We're doing a private
version.
screening of the color purple in January. We have the whole theater. We're all going to be dressed in our
nice.
purple. Yeah, we have
Yeah,
that
I gotta
coming.
try to come. I know
Yeah,
I'm in
please do.
Central Florida, but
No, but
I
we have members from all over the state. We have
Ooh,
a podcast also. We're going to be doing a podcast on the color purple. We recently
nice.
did one on the courage to run for office, encouraging our members to get out there and take a chance and
Mm-hmm.
run for office.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently running for president of the Florida Bar, and
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the speakers on the podcast, and I just talked about the fact that, like, so many times we're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yes.
If I lose, or I can't do that, or I'm not ready. I haven't done this, or I haven't done this, or I haven't done that.
Yes.
All the reasons why we can't do it. Whereas our counterparts just are like, I'm in, and so it was really, we had some great professionals, just people that are in the business of politics to come in and say, no, you can't do it. There's groundwork that has to be done. Let's get our heads out of the sand and start putting in the groundwork so that we can do these things
Yes.
and take advantage of these opportunities. And so we went to the Supreme Court. We had 12 Black women sworn into the U.S. Supreme Court this spring, and Justice Jackson was just beaming with pride. We came in our black and purple. All the justices were really nice and very welcoming, but it was a really powerful and wonderful experience for us.
Yeah, I mean, ooh, I got goosebumps because I got sworn into the Supreme Court as well. Justice Ginsburg was still on the
Yes,
bench, so that was a
yes,
while ago.
yes.
Um,
I did too. I was there with Ginsburg. I sat right
oh,
across from her.
oh wow.
I didn't do it with our group. I was the movement for our group. So I
Okay, yeah.
actually got to stand at the lectern and speak to the chief, which I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm at the lectern of the U.S.
Yeah.
Supreme Court speaking to the Chief Justice. I mean, it was just a phenomenal experience. But when I did it with the Florida Bar, with our Board of Governors. And I
Hmm.
sat right across from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I literally was like a little kid in a candy store. I was like, I
Yes.
cannot believe I'm sitting right across from her. It was very powerful.
It is. Definitely want to encourage our listeners to look out for that. You have to be practicing for a minimum amount of years and have some other
Yes,
things, but just have it
yes.
in your to-do
Have
list.
it on your
And
radar. It's worth it.
yes. And
Worth
I
it.
served on the Judicial Nominating Conference for the Middle District of Florida.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
yeah, one of my jobs is recruiting people to apply and all the
See?
things you said. Well, I'm not ready. And then their counterparts, I swear, the minimum requirements, they pick up the phone.
They're
What I
in.
got to do?
Yep. And it's you know what it is? It's just changing the way that we think,
Yes.
really. And so we try to do a lot of programming on just sort of changing the way that we think about things. And instead of waiting for an opportunity to come to you, go get it. I mean, and I had to learn that. I remember I was in Palm Beach County. I had just had my first daughter. I had been practicing for maybe 7 or 8 years, and had gotten involved in the Palm Beach County Bar Association, chaired a committee or two. And one of the board members was like, why aren't you running for the board? And it had not crossed my mind. I mean, wasn't something that I envisioned myself doing. But then I started to ask myself, why am I not running for the board? And so with a little bit of encouragement from one of the board members, who is one of my dear friends, who happens to be a white man, you know, but just he really was like, you need to do this. And I did. I ran. I won. And he said, you're going to be president. And again, I was like, what? Eventually, I became president of the Palm Beach County Bar Association. And then he said, same guy, you need to run for board of governors. And I'm like, huh? And I ran for board of governors, got on the board of governors. And then eventually I decided to run for president. He did not have to tell me to run for president.
Yes, there you go.
Finally, after 3 times, right? Yes. I finally clicked. But he's just a dear friend. We worked on the Committee for Diversity and Inclusion for the Palm Beach Bar together. We revamped it together. He had major connections in all of the majority law firms here in Palm Beach County. And we started a diversity internship program where we would place diverse students, law students, and it's still going now. So I'm saying that for law students, and we accept law students really from all over, and we place them at law firms, agencies in the summer. It's a paid program. And the goal is like to get over this hump of like, oh, we don't know any Black lawyers, or we don't know any Hispanic lawyers, or we don't know any Asian lawyers, or whatever it is. Okay, well, we're sending you interns every summer. Every summer we're going to send you. And it has resulted, I think it's been like 10 years now, in a significant number of diverse lawyers getting job opportunities. One of them became a partner at Schutz and Bowen, and often comes back and speaks about his experience in Palm Beach County through this program. And so I say that to say that, apply for the program. I think the applications are out now. It's a great opportunity for exposure, but also, I think sometimes we box you never know where you're going to find a mentor. Be open. We do live in a very sort of, in this world of chaos and craziness, but I still believe that there's so many good people, and I have benefited from their wisdom and their guidance over the years from all backgrounds that have really encouraged me and pushed me. And so that's what we're trying to do in this organization, is sort of be those pushers to tell, our younger lawyers, no, don't wait. Let's go do this. I want to see you in this position. What do we need to do to get you there? I want you to go have lunch with this person. Great opportunity. Just trying to position our folks to really sort of take advantage of all that the practice of law has to offer.
Excellent. Well, Saya, I know you are all over social media. Can you tell people where they can follow you and get some more info on you?
Everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Threads. I'm not, I haven't quite got to TikTok yet, because I just, I don't have, most of the time when I'm on TikTok is just trying to look and see what my teenage daughter is looking at on TikTok. Right? So I need a little help with TikTok, but it's Saya Baker Barnes is really my handle on everything, and that's where you can find me. And, I try to stay active and engaged. I try to, I think with social media, like, there's all this, that, and the other, but really it's about just sort of giving people a glimpse into you, right? It's not every single day. I'm not going to be posting pictures of me in my pajamas looking like a train wreck. I'm not doing that. But I try to give a little bit of glimpse of what it's like to be a working wife, mom, lawyer, community, involved in my community, involved in my bar, involved in my church, lots of kids' activities. And I try to tell the truth. And the truth is, it's hard. It's hard, but I think it's worth it. You're going to have good days, bad days, okay days. I do not believe there is, quote, work-life balance. I think it's a blend. I think we do the best we can as parents. And as a working mom, especially as a trial lawyer mom, it's just hard. My kids are now 15, 11, and 9, but I was trying cases when they were, in diapers. My tobacco trial that you talked about, My son was 7 months old. That was a 3-week trial. I was still nursing. But I had a team. I had my parents, my family, and then here at the firm, which has been very, very supportive. And I think it's really, really important that you have a place that is welcoming and open and supportive of you. You have to deliver as the lawyer, but you need them to deliver the support and resources to help you deliver for them as a lawyer, is how I see it. And so we had runners for this case. It was a huge tobacco case. And one of our runners, his sole job was to come to that courthouse and get the milk that I was pumping, bring it back here, put it in my fridge at the office, and my babysitter could come get it and feed my baby every day till I got home. That was his job, period. Because we were in trial. And when you're in trial, you're in the trenches, you're in the hole, as I call it. So you're in court all day and you're pretty much up all night getting ready for the next day. And that was 3 weeks that, I did not get to see my baby that much in those 3 weeks. So I say that to those as parents because I don't like to sugarcoat it. I mean, and so my mom helped a lot with the baby. I would come home, I would be with him a little bit at night, and then I'd be right back in court the next day. And then, once the trial was over, we won, thank goodness. I took a little bit of time off and I had a week where it was just me and my kids. And and so that's what I mean by blend. It's like, there's not going to be a perfectly balanced day when you're in trial. It's not. You're in the hole. But you can adjust and spend more time with your kids when you get out of trial. And so I try to do that now by setting expectations. Mommy has a meeting in Tallahassee. I'll be in Tallahassee Monday, Tuesday. When I get back on Wednesday, this is what we're gonna be doing when we get back on Wednesday. So I think a lot of communication, having a lot of support, having a supportive firm, agency, team is really important to being a working parent, and especially a trial lawyer working parent. And I think having a family and having that perspective as a parent makes you a better lawyer because you understand, what it's like to be a parent and to be responsible for somebody else and want the very best for them. And that's what we want. It's very much like your clients. We're responsible for them. We're responsible for delivering for them, for doing our best to deliver for them a result that puts them in a better place than when they come to us with their problem. So it's our job to do our best to fix it.
Well, I just want to save this last thing to wrap up because we could talk forever.
Yes.
But there's this strong Black woman trope out there, and I'm so glad that you're being transparent about the fact that no, I'm not doing it by myself. There is a team, and I'm willing to ask for help. And that is why I'm successful. Like this whole I'm gonna do everything by myself thing, we can let that go now. We can put that down.
No way. No
way.
Okay,
ladies, let's put it down.
You'll burn yourself out. It's
Exactly.
not real. It's a team, village, as we call it. And also it's sort of just like, I think, sort of self-designing things that help make it easier for you. My children's school is on the same street as my house. It's literally a minute away. That is by design. I'm never moving until my kids are out of school. I don't care how packed that house is and how much more room we need. We're not moving. Why? Because when my son forgets his water bottle or I need to run up to the school it's right there. All their activities are right there. My parents live, 2 streets over. My sister and her neighborhood is across the street. All of that is, by design so we can help each other. My sister's a lawyer. She has her own firm. She's a solo practitioner. She has 2 children. If she's having a crazy day, my house is 1 minute away and I can swing by and grab the kids for her while she, finishes her depo. And so I think it's really critical that we get out of this mindset, this just strong, super Black woman. I can do everything. It doesn't mean you can't do everything. You can. You just have to have help.
Yes.
And you have to give yourself grace. I think that's really important, to give yourself grace, because you're not going to be able to be everywhere all the time. You're going to miss things as well. I try really hard I put the things that are immovable conflicts for me are on my calendar all the time. And my team here at the firm knows these are immovable conflicts. We don't schedule over this, period. So I think that's one, a strong team at your office is important and communication with them about, this I can miss, this I can't miss. And then those things that I have to miss, like maybe it's a afternoon cookie party at school that they popped up with that I already have a depot it's been set for 4 weeks and I can't miss it. Dad goes, or grandma goes, or sister goes, or mom friend at school says I got them and I'll take them for ice cream afterwards, and then you do it for them too. And so I think it's just about sort of setting those expectations, giving yourself grace, understanding that you can't be everywhere all the time, and then really setting those boundaries is important.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Saya, for sharing
Yeah,
your story with us, talking with
absolutely.
us. And we
My
wish you the
pleasure.
best of luck on your endeavors. And
Thank you so much. My pleasure. And I wish all of everyone who's watching the best. I really do love being a lawyer. I think one of the things that worries me a lot is that we still drop out of the profession at very high rates. So we go to law school, we do all of this, we take the bar, we do this LSAT, all of that, and then we get either lost. I've experienced that, or we get unhappy, or it's just not going the way that we want it to go. And so that was really one of the other reasons why we wanted to start that organization, is to try to retain our lawyers in this profession. And if you're not happy where you're at, to help find you a place where you are happy. Because I really do think that when our profession looks like our community, it makes a huge difference. And it really, I think, is a reflection on, our system of justice, right? Our system of justice should be representative of something that's inclusive of everyone. So
that's true. I agree. And so does Journey to Esquire. So
yes.
to our listeners, we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.